see here. Yep. Hello. Hello, my name is Mike Butcher. I'm editor-at-large of TechCrunch, based out of London, and a plane. Pavel Durov, you created Telegram after the creating VKontakte, effectively the Facebook of Russia. But now you've gone on to create Telegram, which is, to some extent, reminds me of WhatsApp, really. And yet not the same scale. You've got about over 60 million users. What are you sending, about 5 billion messages a day?
Actually, we announced 10 last month, 10 billion messages delivered daily.
Yeah.
But right now, I checked earlier today, it's over 12 billion messages delivered daily.
Amazing. So that's breaking news as of today.
Yeah.
12 billion messages a day from Telegram. But, you know, I think a lot of people would like to ask you, what is the point of Telegram when in a world where there are so many other messaging platforms?
It's a good question, but you know, to put it simply, it doesn't matter how many other messaging apps are out there if all of them suck, right? So
which ones suck for you?
For me and for most of my team, WhatsApp sucked most. We actually started as a...
You say WhatsApp sucks?
Absolutely. And I can elaborate on that.
Please do.
Sure. Well, look, we're living in 2015. We're supposed to have flying cars and everything right now.
Jetpacks?
Absolutely. But if you have WhatsApp on your phone and your battery is low and your phone goes dead, suddenly you can't get access to your messages. It's over. It's not cross-device. It doesn't have cross-device sync. You can't send documents on big media. There are lots of limitations in group chats, in your communication, and it's not private. So I'm not sure I was a big fan of WhatsApp about 3 or 2 years ago, and I'm not sure I am now.
You mentioned privacy. Now you've made a big claim about Telegram being having the ability to be end-to-end encrypted.
Sure.
I mean, that's obviously a laudable claim, especially we're living in a kind of post-Snowden world. Sure. But what does it do for the business, in a sense? Where's the business proposition in encryption?
Well, look, I had a friend, back then when I was living in Russia, I had a friend, and she told me that she was presented with a printout of her WhatsApp messages in the police department. So they basically intercepted and decrypted her messages, and she told me they tried to use it to blackmail her. So privacy is not something that is relevant only to business users, but business is most affected because they could be blackmailed. Rich people could be blackmailed, and their information is more valuable. It could be compromised.
So in other words, you're saying you retain users because they trust you because the messages can't be intercepted.
That's just one of the things that makes Telegram different. There are many more, and
you're gradually rolling out a bot platform. Do you want to describe that to us and why that might actually end up becoming a significant part of what Telegram is?
Yeah, we launched the bot platform, I think.
This is for third-party developers?
Yeah, June this year. So any third-party developer using very simple APIs can create a bot, a pseudo-user that you can communicate with on Telegram, but on the other end of communication, there is the machine that is dealing with all the messages on that side. And actually, a lot of services have appeared using that paradigm of communication, dating, education, productivity, lots of stuff. And I learned only yesterday that one of the most successful bots of the platform got an acquisition attempt, 8-digit acquisition attempt. It's only like 3 months old, already 8-digit acquisition attempt.
So you're saying there was someone wanted to acquire one of the bots?
Yes, the company that created these bots.
So in other words, so you're saying that there will be startups launched on Telegram's platform that might actually end up being acquired in their own right.
That's true. That's what is been happening, and I think the news will break out later this fall.
So in a sense, the bot platform is almost like apps for Telegram.
That's true.
And you think that eventually third-party developers may actually make money in this way?
Absolutely. So we are thinking about launching a payment API so that all the bot developers, third-party developers, could accept money easily from their users in Telegram. And yeah.
Is it something that we also might extend in terms of advertising that the bots themselves might become marketing channels for brands?
That's already happening, actually. Some of the bots are being used for sending ads, unfortunately. I'm not a big fan of ads, but these are third-party bots. And users opted in receiving messages from these bots. So it's already happening. I hear there's a bot, a third-party bot agency, ad agency, dealing with this.
Really? So that might become a real sort of an ecosystem, effectively, that you're developing.
Absolutely. That's pretty early stage. It's only 3 months old, but what we're seeing, we're very happy about it.
One of the things, though, is that you've clearly made some compromises on the platform because, for instance, there's been reports that you've met with the Iranian government to allow the fact that you've shutting down some porn bots, for instance, on Telegram inside Iran. Can you confirm that for us or not?
Well, I can confirm the first part, but I do confirm that we do block porn bots in markets where porn is prohibited, because what happens in that environment is that porn websites which are blocked started to reappear in form of bots on Telegram platform. And as a result...
This was happening in Iran?
This was happening in Iran, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, some countries like that. And what we saw is that, as a result, we got a lot of users we didn't want to. And we're not big fans of porn. We don't want Telegram to be perceived as a source of porn. And so we do block this kind of stuff.
So, in the sense that you make a big play about being a libertarian and have freedom of speech, and yet on the other side, you're cutting off access to some at some level. Is there any sort of secret behind the scenes negotiations with some of these governments?
No. So we do it purely for business decisions. We don't want to, in some markets, we don't want to be perceived as something that has to do with porn. And this is actually the same reasoning behind Apple's decision to block porn content on App Store, or Instagram's decision to block porn, or Facebook, or YouTube, or Google. You can go on. And we think this is the right thing to do. But if we speak about privacy and freedom of speech, we have very adamant principles about it. Through over 2 years of our existence, we haven't disclosed a single byte of data to third parties, including governments. And it was not easy. And as for freedom of speech, like I said, if there's a bot that has to do with criticizing governments or with some opposition activity, we would never block such a bot.
You've obviously famously created VKontakte in Russia, which was kind of like the Facebook of Russia, but you were controversially effectively told to get out of that by forces aligned with the government. Is that's the case, right?
That's roughly true.
Roughly true.
Yes.
Which part is true and which isn't?
Well, mostly in the sense that it's true and it's rough. But yeah, we found ourselves...
I mean, there were some incredible stories around that time, wasn't there? That you were effectively framed for a car accident, that you were put under political pressure.
But that's nothing out of the ordinary in Russia, believe me. If you get to the country, live there for some time, you get used to it. It happens with other businessmen. I'm not no different from the rest of them.
And you've now become a resident of St. Kitts. You roam the world dressed in black, You live a nomadic digital lifestyle. How are you going to manage to continue to run a company in this way, moving around the planet, trying to evade authorities? Do you feel like you're a target?
Not so much, no. Although sometimes I feel excessive attention. For example, here in the United States, when I go out of the country. But, well, it's a good question. Because right now we're a very small team. We can afford to rent houses short-term all over the world. We spent this summer in Finland. It was great. Spring in Paris.
You just rented a house in Finland and got your team together and carried on building Telegram.
That was great. Absolutely great. Well, of course, some of the guys, they stay at their home. We outsource some of the design and customer support to Eastern Europe and Southern Europe. But other than that, we're a small team of 15. And we like to travel, and we want to use this opportunity to see more.
You haven't raised money for Telegram, have you?
No.
You took reportedly $300 million from your sale of your share in VKontakte. Is that correct?
I cannot confirm the exact number, but I was very lucky to...
Is it higher than $300 million or lower?
I would say this. I was very lucky to get out at the point before the market crashed. It was just before the Ukrainian events broke out, and it was extremely fortunate.
That would have affected the value of VKontakte?
Yeah, because I do it before that. And then after these events broke out and the local currency went down, and right now the value of the company I sold is probably like 3 or 4 times lower than it used to be.
Do you think Facebook eventually will just take over in Russia?
I'm not sure about Facebook. I'm not a big believer in Facebook. VKontakte still leads in Russia with a huge margin. But they are struggling to remain relevant because these mobile apps started to attract users. I mean, Instagram, WhatsApp, Viber, Snapchat, apps like that.
Do you think it's ever likely that you would take outside investment for Telegram? I mean, you live this sort of nomadic lifestyle. Any board meeting you have had with an outside investor might be a shambles because you move around the planet all the time.
No, we really like to be independent at this point. We think there's more than market shares and revenue streams. We like the opportunity to...
I mean, do you have enough money to last for a while?
Yeah, definitely.
And you can just continue to build out the platform as you see it?
Yeah, we'll continue to do what we think is right.
What about... I mean, do you think, in a way, is this sort of your revenge on Putin? The secure messaging?
I'm not sure. I mean, I'm not focused on revenge too much. It's ironic that a lot of people, including high-profile people in Russia, use Telegram, and I'm happy about that. But Russia is like number 7 market for us in terms of its size within the Telegram ecosystem, and it's not particularly important for us whether, for example, we are big in Russia or we are small in Russia or blocked in Russia, because we've already been there. We've already made a company which owned the Russian market, and that's not a new challenge.
Do you ever go back to Russia? Can you go back to Russia?
I can. I was in Russia this spring for my mom's birthday, and well, I can go in and out of the country. Nobody seems to care these days because obviously they have other things to be worried about. But
so you're not so high profile that they...
No, not anymore, because I sold the largest social network in Russia. They shouldn't be worried about me at this point. But I try to spend as few time as I can, as little time as I can in Russia. It's, just because I want to see other places.
You like to travel. Does it concern you that ISIS is using Telegram?
They do.
Does that concern you?
That's a good question.
Do you sleep well at night knowing terrorists use your platform?
You know, That's a very good question, but I think that privacy, ultimately, and our right for privacy, is more important than our fear of bad things happening, like terrorism. And if you look at ISIS, yes, there's a war going on in the Middle East. It's a series of tragic events. But ultimately, the ISIS will always find a way to communicate within themselves. And if any means of communication turns out to be not secure for them, they'll just switch to another one. And so I don't think we're actually taking part in these activities. I don't think we should be guilty or feel guilty about it. I still think we're doing the right thing, protecting our users' privacy.
You think that if they weren't using Telegram, they'd be using something else?
Absolutely. And even with that, there's open source apps that you could build using end-to-end encryption. You could install them, and it's all available. So the technology is already there, and it's up to us how we would use it.
Kik, the messaging platform Kik, has raised $50 million from Tencent in order to build out more of an Asian style of messaging platform where you can order a car or you can purchase goods. You can order pizza on Tencent or something like that. Is that kind of where you want to go with Telegram, that it becomes not a messaging platform, not just for messaging, but also for other services as well?
Yes and no. Because in order to go this Eastern model, you have to really have high penetration into a market. You have to be socially relevant for everybody. And it's not always the case with apps like Telegram or Kik that you mentioned. Because although we are pretty big in some of the markets, and I think we're number one in a couple of them, we don't have the dominance that WeChat has in China or Line in Japan or Kakao in Korea. And so, yes, we will experiment with the payment system with bots and third-party applications built on top of Telegram, but we don't see ourselves as necessarily as going that way in the near future.
Isn't there the danger that you kind of become an also-ran, that a company that, sure, it's useful, people can use it for messaging, but there's not very much more to it than that?
The interesting thing that we noticed is that people who installed Telegram in massive numbers last year and this year and installed it just as a backup application started to use Telegram as their primary messaging application. And that's why we see this huge increase in user activity. We used to have 1 billion messages delivered daily in February. Now we're over 12. And that's an indicator that people really love Telegram and switch more and more of their activities there. And more often than not, they start their day from their messaging app. And if their messaging app turns out to be Telegram, they will start the day from Telegram. And I think that we should be really happy about this. Messaging is probably the biggest thing going on in social media in this decade, and we're definitely in the right place in time.
So we're at over 60 million users. When what are the next big points that you want to get to? 100 million? When will you be at 100 million?
We're gradually getting there. But something that is a bit discouraging about getting 60 or 100 million active users is that you always get compared in the media with the older messaging apps. So any media covering Telegram stats would say, look, okay, they have 60, 70, 100 million, but this is still a far cry compared to WhatsApp's 800 or 900 million. And they don't take into account that we're actually 2 years old. And WhatsApp is also over 6 years old. If you start comparing Telegram with other companies that appeared 2 years ago, these are pretty huge numbers, right? So we're not big fans of announcing numbers at this point.
Well, we'll look with interest on your next next moment of announcements. And thank you very much, Pavel Durov.
Thank you, Mike.
Cheers.
All right.